help anybody in my domain or in my region or whatever I can provide to you guys, I would be more than happy to do that.
Great, great. No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Munib.
Thank
So
you.
we have Usama Imran. If you would quickly introduce yourself, Usama, and then Uzair.
Hi, my name is Usama. Uh, First of all, thank you to everyone. And by profession, I'm a chartered accountant, but I've been learning and seeing the transition going towards the ESG and the progress it's been done all over the world. And right now, I'm working as a freelance with a company in Pakistan, with the name Spectrico. They are dealing with the ESG within the hospitality industry. So I'm looking forward to this event, same as for the networking, and if there is any opportunity, and especially as mentioned that in Canada, because the policies are right now not very much mature in Canada. They are most probably like when what I learned that they are following the in the US market. So I'm learning about the Canadian market as well. So this is my plan. So let's see how this
Great.
even goes, hopefully.
Thank you very much. Uzair Aslam, if you could. You're muted, Uzair. You unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I
Hello.
hope everyone is doing good.
Sure.
So, this is Uzair. I have a startup in Pakistan. It's a data analytics company. We are helping ESG companies primarily in collecting the data, analyzing the data, and preparing the dashboards and reports for the stakeholders. So, I myself as a data analyst, and we are currently working with Arasco. It's a Riyadh-based company, and we have a number of other companies we are working together as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then we have Amar Arif. Amar, if you could introduce yourself.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I am Ahmad Arif. I am working for a company called SDG Me, and we provide baseline sustainability assessments to companies, especially small and medium enterprises who want to start their sustainability journey and want to know where to start and how to go about it. Thank you for inviting me to this session. And I'm looking forward to engaging with fellow professionals in the sustainability and ESG area and learn more and also find more clients and engage with people. Thank you.
Thank you. And just one little thing. I've known Amar for many, many years. He used to work with British government in the trade and investment section. So he shuttles between UK and Pakistan. He's a British citizen, and he's an amazing fellow. So that's like while we were talking about this thing, and he showed interest. Let's come over because this is something that you're doing already, because this is going to enrich the conversation that we're going to have today. That's the plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Aman.
So, thank you. So we are already 5 minutes in the conversation. Shall we just start it, and whoever joins in later on we'll have the video available anyway. So for them, if they want to watch the whole thing, they can do so. Amar? Okay.
I think, yeah, let's
Sure.
get started. Let's not keep the rest of our participants waiting.
Sure.
So I'll just we'll just have a little slide deck where we'll just set a baseline for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for your comments and questions, a little bit of a discussion. Before I move forward, Hamad, you can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, it's not the best, but I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, it's better. It's getting better. So
Okay.
probably your
right.
microphone has to come a little closer to your mouth, to your.
Yeah.
To your,
so let me also try to be a little bit louder, and let's see if that works.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks once again, everyone, for participating in what we plan to be the first session in a number of sessions, which will focus on the ESG, and in particular the basically the reporting or the regulatory landscape of the ESG. Yeah. And when we talk about the regulations, we will focus on two set of regulations here. The ESG regulations are wide and diverse, and just for the the sake of our combined sanity, we'll just keep ourselves to the two main set of regulations that are out there, which we believe would basically cover more than 90% of the jurisdictions. So let's get into it. The first set of regulations come from the European bloc. It's called IFRAG. IFRAG is the organization which has released the first set of reporting standards in this domain. There are 12 reporting standards across the entire spectrum of ESG. The second set basically comes from the IFRS Sustainability Board, and we have already got 2 reporting standards that they have released. Now, before we jump into the details of it, and we are going to focus on one key component of this entire ESG spectrum. But before we jump into it, let's look at where these 2 reporting standards or 2 set of regulations are coming from and where are they heading. So just a little bit of an idea about the timeline of sustainability standards. I think that's going to be that's going to give us a good context of where did they come from. So, and the best place to start in terms of timeline is the Paris Climate Agreement. Now, back in 2015, we know most of the participants would know what the Paris Climate Agreement entailed. But for someone like me, that was that holds a very historic significance, because more than 190 countries basically came together, and they said that, okay, climate change is a combined issue, is an issue that we need to tackle together. And what basically ended up happening is that we set up a high-level objective that we are going to take steps to make sure that the global temperature increase. The temperatures are going to increase, but we are going to make sure that that increase remains within 2 degrees Celsius in this century when compared to the pre-industrial levels. The ideal scenario is the 1.5 degrees, but if we cannot achieve that, we have to make sure that it does not increase more than 2 degrees centigrade. Now, in order to achieve that objective, that high-level objective, what does it translate to? It translates to controlling the greenhouse gases, the GHGs, that actually result in the increase in the temperatures, right? The global temperatures. So from this Paris Climate Agreement jumping point, there was a broad consensus about the global emissions, that we need to keep the global emissions under a certain level, and we need to work towards the reduction of that level. That global target then was trickled down as separate targets for each nation, each of the 190 signatories that were part of the Paris Agreement, and that became what we call the nationally determined contribution, NDC. So under the Paris Agreement, every 5 years there is a stock take. There's a global stock take where they basically let the countries come up and report on how did they perform against their NDCs every 5 years. Now think about it for a second, Hamad. In order for a country or for an economy to report its performance of the GHG reduction, these GHG footprint is mostly, spread across the public and private sector. Yeah, for them to report on that, they need the public and private sector to report on their individual carbon footprints, and that's where the regulations come into play. Now, it took a period of 6 years for the parties to decide that we need an international set of account standards to basically create a baseline for reporting on GHGs. And so on the in COP26, which was held in 2021 Glasgow, the IFRS Foundation, which is the International Financial Reporting Standards, they announced the formation of a board which will basically focus on developing the sustainability standards. And within the next 1.5 years, they were able to produce the first 2 reporting standards, which we saw in the previous slide as well. The standards S1 and S2 were released in June 2023. That was followed, and the next month, IFRAG, the European bloc, came up with their quite comprehensive set of standards, 12 different standards, out of which there are 2 cross-cutting standards, general requirements, 5 standards which focus on the environmental part, 4 standards on the social part, and 1 standard on the governance part. So you can see that the year 2023 has been a year of environmental regulations. IFRS came up with their regulations. The IFRAG, the European bloc, came up with their own regulations. Now, what does this mean for the businesses? So IFRS, as many of my fellow accountants which are in this event with us would know, that IFRS standards are adopted by each nation. They are not mandatory. IFRS would just tell you that they are effective from 1st of January. From 1st of January, they're available. 1st of January 2024, they're available for adoption. But each individual jurisdiction has to make it mandatory for itself. IFRAG is a different ballgame altogether. IFRAG for European businesses is mandatory, starting with certain large listed entities, the large banks and the large insurance companies. They have to start reporting for the year 2024 as the first year of reporting. And the first reports are supposed to come out in 2025. So expect the first sustainability reports in the first half of 2024, at least under the European IFRAG standards, if not the ISSB. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a timeline of these 2 very important set of regulations. And I also thought it would be a good idea for us to just do a very high-level comparison between these 2. Now, I promise that we will keep ourselves to these 2 set of regulations, because regulations are far and wide, right? So we'll not touch upon the GRI side too much, right? We'll just keep ourselves to ESRS, which are the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, and the ISSB standards. Now, ESRS, we just saw that it's mandatory for the European-based businesses. ISSB needs to be made mandatory by national adoption. Both sets of standards deal with the environmental aspect in detail. In terms of governance side, the ESRS has a dedicated standard. ISSB deals with some governance aspects, right? The social side, ESRS once again has 4 dedicated standards on it. ISSB, while it does refer to the social aspects of the ESG, it does not have a dedicated standard to it. Yeah, so I just thought that it would be a very good comparison to just look at where do these 2 regulations stand. And you can see that ESRS basically lead in terms of requirements. So if you're a business which is based in Europe, please brace yourself. You are the first ones across the globe that's going to think on your sustainability aspects. And lastly, so now let's talk about these components. And we discussed it before that we are not going to be talking about the entire spectrum of ESG. We'll just focus on the environmental aspect in this first session, and then in the subsequent sessions, then we will basically expand on the other aspects as well. And when we talk about the environment, also a subcomponent of environment here. We are not talking about, and then if you remember, Hamad, in our last session, which we did on the circular economy, we said that environment or the biosphere is in turn divided into 3 components. You have hydrosphere, which is the oceans and the seas and the life form under the sea. You have geosphere, which is basically the plants and animals above the ground and the minerals and metals below the ground. And then the third part is the atmosphere, which is the air we breathe. We're going to just limit ourselves to that atmospheric part within this, within the larger environmental regulations, right? And once you talk about the atmosphere, we have to talk about what basically is making the atmospheric temperatures rise. And that's where the GHG come into play, the greenhouse gases. Both IFRS and IFRAG standards, the two set of regulations, they point to a third set of regulations. So even though we promised that, we'll just limit ourselves to just two set of standards, here we go, we just broke our promise, because both of them basically point to a third set of standards for measuring the greenhouse gas emissions. And that is what we call the GHG protocol. The greenhouse gas protocol, that's the third set of standards. Under the GHG protocol, there are 7 different gases mentioned. There is carbon dioxide, there is methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, sulfur hexafluoride, and nitrogen trifluoride. These are the 7 greenhouse gases that are mentioned under the GHG, which you need to measure and report on. Are there more GHG gases? Yes, but under the GHG protocol, there are these 7 mentioned. Yeah, and these 7 greenhouse gas emissions are then categorized across 3 different categories: Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. Scope 1 basically talks about your direct emissions, the emissions that are owned or controlled by your business, and which are basically your business directly contributes to the atmosphere. So, so a couple of examples. So this would be emissions from burning the fuel in your factories and your plant and machinery. Let's say for a logistic companies like the FedEx and the DHLs of the world, they are running their fleet. So the fuel that they burn in that fleet and the emissions from that fleet would become their Scope 1 emission for those businesses. Scope 2 and 3 are indirect emissions. Yeah, you do not produce those emissions directly, but Scope 2 emission is basically the emissions from the purchased energy. That purchased energy can come in 4 forms: electricity, steam, heating, and cooling, right? So you can purchase those 4 forms of energy, and you have to report the greenhouse gas emissions as a result of purchased energy. Scope 3 basically is the indirect emissions other than the Scope 1 and 2. So these are all your upstream and downstream activities, which basically result in GHG emissions. So that is something which we have to basically report. And one of the examples under Scope 3. So this Scope 3 is becoming a problem. Yeah, so that's the most difficult part to report across all the 3 scopes. Why? Because here you have almost 14 to 15 different categories of emissions which you do not control, right? Let's say you purchase some goods and services. Basically, a distribution businesses passes the goods or services to a retail business. From retail business point of view, if they use those goods and services, that becomes their Scope 3 emission. So think about it. That retail business is not dependent on the reporting of that distribution business so that they can classify that as their Scope 3 emissions. And these Scope 2 and Scope 3 emissions, the indirect emissions, are dependent on the other actors in the value chain of these businesses. And unless they don't report, the business itself will not be able to report on Scope 2 and 3. And that basically leads us nicely into some of the main questions which come up with these Scope 1 to 3 emissions, because European regulations, which are the first ones which are going to become mandatory, they're asking mostly the listed companies and the large banks and insurance companies to report. Now we know why they're doing it, because one of the key stakeholders of that information, that scope 1 to 3 information, are the investors and the capital markets. That's why they have made it mandatory for the large listed companies to make it. But would it be a better adoption strategy to start, apart from the listed entities, from the companies, from the businesses which are higher up in the value chain, the upstream entities, which are mining, agriculture, parts manufacturing, logistics? Because we saw that scope 2 and 3, you cannot report on them unless folks up in the value stream first measure and report their carbon footprints, right? So I'll just leave you with that question, and then Hamad, over to you. We can then take the comments and questions from our participants as well. I'll just move to the previous slide so we have it in front of us if there are any questions on that.
So thank you, Amar. I think now we have some new audience that have just joined in, and I think it would be appropriate if I request Emily and Paul to kindly, and Fahad as well, to kindly quickly introduce yourselves. So if you can turn on your camera or a microphone and just quickly tell us where you're joining in from, what do you do? So can I request Emily first? Can you please unmute yourself? Okay. If not, then we'll go to Paul. Paul, can you please unmute yourself and quickly introduce? Yes, go ahead, Paul. Yeah, your voice is breaking somehow. Oh, Paul, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. So quickly, if you could put your little introduction in the chat, please. We can't hear you, Paul. So that maybe there's something to do with your internet. You should quickly put your introduction into, and I can't even mute him. Okay, so what I will do, I'll have to mute everyone. That's the only way. Okay. So Paul, there's something with your internet, so you could just simply add your little introduction. And Emily, if you want to turn on your microphone, you can also add your introduction in the chat. And then we have Mohammed Fahad. Fahad, if you want to quickly introduce yourself. I don't see your microphone appearing, so I'm not sure if you're able to do so. But we have Mohsin Mukhtar joining in from Canada as well. So Mohsin sir, you could quickly, yes, please, just quickly introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. So this is Mohsin Mukhtar, and I offer fractional CFO services in Canada and in US, and now I'm venturing into other part of the world as well. My interest in ESG is the ESG analytics and the ESG reporting. So I have been into that space, and I want to sharpen up and I want to enhance my skill in ESG reporting, ESG compliance for small to medium-sized companies.
Superb. So thank you very much, Mohsin sir, for this quick introduction. And I think what we also needed to do is to quickly introduce Amar as well. And Amar, those who do not know us, some people who may not know us. So Amar, quickly, who is Amar Malik? and why is he doing what he is doing? You're mute, Amar. Can't hear you.
So you can hear me now,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So my name is Amar, and I come from a finance and business background. I'm a chartered accountant by profession, but I have for the last 3 years also worked in the technology domain. And as far as the ESG is concerned, I'm a sustainability and ESG enthusiast, and I've been following these regulations and learning about them, picking them up, disseminating the information about these regulations. So you know, my I would not say expertise, but rather skill set is a cross-cutting one: finance, technology, as well as the sustainability domain.
Yeah, and Amar is based in Saudi and Netherlands. So part of his time he spent in Saudi Arabia, and part of his time he spent in Netherlands, which is big on sustainability. So he gets the opportunity to kind of learn things from the horse's mouth as well. So thank you, Amar. Some of you already know me. My name is Amar Siddiqui. I'm also based in Canada. I'm also a learning enthusiast, if I may put it this way, and Amar and I are working together to create a community of ESG enthusiasts, basically. And seeing here as well, we have Paul joining in from Zimbabwe. People are joining in from Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, also from Canada. Actually makes it a nice community that's coming together today in today's session. And the idea is that we all need to learn, like, if we have to keep working towards our own like ESG initiatives and whatever business we are in, the only best way to learn is to interact with people who are in that field and who bring in diverse kind of knowledge. So we have data analysts sitting here. We have ESG experts who are already working in ESG. We have people like Ahmad Arif who are working with the actual people who have to report on ESG. And that actually is an interesting outcome of the session. The first session we did, I think was December, we did on circular carbon economy. But what we realized is circular carbon economy is an interesting debate, but because ESG is actually seeing more action globally, we should start with ESG and slowly build it up towards the ultimate goal of achieving zero carbon, um, or saving our Mother Earth, because we'll be able to save few things in this whole scheme. So that's the basic objective of these meetups, and we are recording this video so that other people who actually said that they will be joining in couldn't do it. The information should be available for them, and information should be in easy to understand language. See, the biggest challenge for most of the people is that the debates and the discussions happen at a very high level, and most of the time it has not kind of trickled down to people who are just starting, who really want to know more and be part of this debate. So this is what we aim at. We want to build this global community, maybe starting with these 12 people that are here today, but we actually need your help to spread the message, and then we do the next session, which we are going to seek your guidance on, whether we do a monthly session, once in a month, 1 hour, or we do once in 2 months. My vote goes for once in a month session so that we stay together and we keep learning, and a lot keeps happening. So why not keep discussing as well? But if there are, and there's more votes towards a once in 2 month session, and of course Amar will win because he was kind of advocating for once in 2 months. So let's see who wins, Amar. This is a competition today. So Hassan says once in a month. So if we do once in a month or once in 2 months, regardless, we need the community. We need you all to come together and also share your knowledge at the platform in this whole discussion. Of course, because Hamar does a lot of research, he can always bring in, yes, Munib, thank you very much. So just in the chat, put, whether it should be once in a month or once in 2 months, and we'll know who wins today. So Hamar will probably have to buy a coffee for me when I go to Netherlands next time. So I think it's always the community starts with few people. I think this is what it is. It's 10, 12 people coming together and aligning aligning yourself with the knowledge which is available, and also sharing or adding value to that existing knowledge that we have. And why are we recording it? Of course, it will be made available to everyone who has not joined in. So our request is, please contribute. Now we will open up for your contributions. So very easily raise your hand, share what you have been doing in that space. What are some of the things that you struggle with in ESG? What else do you want to learn? And we'll take notes of everything. And it will be exciting for us to, when we do the next session, hear more about these things. And of course, spread the message, build the community. The another thing that we are planning is to create a little LinkedIn chat group. So it will not be the group. It will be a little chat group where we will be able to share our own thoughts, knowledge, ask question, and whoever is part of the group will keep populating it. We can go up to 50 people in a group. Um, and once we reach to 50, we'll see what we have to do. Maybe we go out and create a Slack group or circle group, depending on how fast we grow. But again, I'm an economist and I'm from the development sector. I always go for the lowest hanging fruit. So the lowest hanging fruit for us, because you all have joined us, I assume, through our event posting or posting on Amar's profile. And LinkedIn was the place you all actually saw that event and joined in. So let's do a LinkedIn thing and create that group. So what we will do, we'll actually would like to, if you don't follow Amar already, maybe that's one thing you should do. It will become easier for us to create that chat group. Only people who are in the first degree connection will be able to join in, which means that you have to, if you want to join the group, you have to follow or connect with Amar. Amar, if you don't mind, can you please share your LinkedIn URL in the chat for all of
Sure,
us?
we'll do it now.
Yeah. And once we are there, I know it's going to be step by step. It's going to be slow. I've created so many communities on different subjects. It's always slow. But, as we build momentum, we'll see more people joining in. Once you start talking about it, once you start sharing some of the things that we do, more people will be able to join in this movement. So let's come together more often, I would say. I think 3 votes have gone for once in a month, and we'll probably do it once in a month. And yeah, so that's what the plan is. Now let's open up for the conversation. Whoever wants to share something, some ideas, what you are doing, what are some things that you are facing challenge with. Raise your hand, turn on your mic, and you should share your thoughts. So, yeah.
So, Hamad, if you allow me, I would just want to start with Mohsen Saab, and then followed by Ahmed. Just comment on, because they are looking at it from a business point of view, yeah, from the consulting point of view. And so where are they seeing the most traction from globally in terms of ESG regulations adoption?
Thanks, Amar. This is Mohsen. So probably, I'll start off. What I have seen, the regulations are changing, and there are new ISBs coming up, and there are no platforms, which can tell us or tell the sustainability analytical guys that what is changing, when is it changing, what is happening, what is the difference between European regulations and the US and the North American regulations. So, there is broken information. So this is on the information side, that there is no right channel available, that what is being happening, and when is it being implemented, and which IFRS to be applied, which is workbook to be used, which analytical channel to be deployed. So all those things, there are it is my own initiative to find out what information do I need. I don't have any, or I don't have any access to one common or one authenticated platform where I can go and I can say, yeah, I can use these tools, I can use these studies, and I can run it across. I'm lucky enough that I've been part of Queen's University, so I do get information from their sustainability group. But in practice, this is what I have seen. The people, they are doing some sort of ESG audit courses, but they are far from the reality as well. There are people doing the analytics courses; they are a little far from those ones. What is the advancement? What is the new rule or regulations coming in? So that's the disconnect, which makes me frustrate. So which makes me to run around, post on the pillar to find out who all are the experts, to whom I can pick up the phone or pick up send a message and send a chat request, and I can get answer, or to whom I can collaborate.
Yeah, and Mohsin, so one of the things which we are going to do in these once in a month or once in every 2 months, we will find out what it is also an update on these two broad set of regulations, the ESRS and the ISSB. Yeah.
Mhm.
So all the updates that happened during, or the major updates that happened during the past month leading up to that event. So we will basically that's the one agenda item which we will see in the in the coming event. So that thing will be covered, and then we will expand the explanation of ESG components as well as per these regulations. Also, some tools and resources which can tell you basically between the international standards and the European standards, what is the overlap, what is different from one to another. Of course, these are available online as well, but we are basically finding more easy to use tools, and we'll definitely be able to share in our subsequent events, and as well as in the chat in that group, that linked group that Hamad just posted. So Amir,
basically simplifying
yeah.
the whole, like the jigsaw puzzle that we have with different regulations, different tools, different stuff. And I think this is where we all come together. It's not so individual, of course, does something, but if you are aware of something, just add value to it. And this is the beauty of our community. That's what we are planning at. And hopefully, because hopefully it's going to be a very, very vibrant and diverse community from different countries, different knowledge spaces. It's going to be fun working together. Yeah, Amar?
Thank you. So first of all, Amar, I think you explained all the regulations very nicely. It was very concise and clear. So thank you for that. Just a couple of things. First of all, I share what Mohsin Saab has been saying about there being a lot of confusion and not exact, like clear guidelines and things like that. However, as a professional in this area, I see this as an opportunity, because it gives us space to be creative and be innovative and come up with different solutions to companies and for clients and for problems, things like that. Two things that I would like to mention that I've observed. First of all, the European standards that you're talking about. So because the European companies have to report, what we see is that there are a lot of, especially like for people for, in Pakistan, for example, like the textile sector. So there's a lot of drive now from the European companies where they want their suppliers who are in Pakistan to talk about their ESG, their sustainability. So I think that's one trend that's emerging because obviously they need that information to fill in their requirements and their reporting. And the other thing, I attended there was a conference in Pakistan a couple of months back held by the ACCA. And they were talking about the IFRS standards. And one of the things that the Pakistanis were saying that what we would like to do is that we would want to wait at least till 2025, 26, once other countries have started adopting the IFRS, and then we would like to make the IFRS mandatory for Pakistani companies. So that's another sort of a trend that we see emerging, and we see that, next year or the year after is when the Pakistani companies will be reporting on these kind of things. But certainly, I think this is a good initiative, and as Ahmad mentioned, updates and things like that, and keeping everybody together and what's going on is something that will be very useful for all of us. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So please add your email addresses in the chat. I see if you have already done it. It will be easier for us just to pick these email addresses and build that community that we are talking about, that little group that we are talking about. So thanks for just keep adding your email addresses. Sure. So who else wants to share something? Munib, you want to say something?
Let's rope in Hassan. Hassan Tariq, who is a dear colleague of mine from the eastern province of Saudi Arabia. We're a part of the same community of ICAP. So Hassan, your comments, your suggestions on what should be the content, especially moving forward in our next follow-up sessions.
Thanks, Ammar, for inviting me. Basically, first of all, it's really learning for me. Basically, to be very, I'm an investment guy, so for me, it's like a totally different thing. Our industry companies are doing it, and they are like, we are doing ESG. We need consultants and all these things, but the basis, still the basics, we don't know you. So for me, it's like just like in Urdu, I can say I'm a tifle maktab. So I need to grab as much knowledge as I can. So I will make the investee companies' life like miserable for them in the audit committees and boards and excom. Sorry, but these are the reality basically. But in Saudi, to be very honest, it just started, and we saw like Aramco is the main driven here. Like so, Aramco and Sabic already in the main loop. The others are going on. Like we have an investee company which is listed one. It's an insurance company. And to be very honest, they just started to think about it. Okay, we have to do it. So unless until we know the basis, so that's the thing. Like what does the E mean? To be very honest, the E1, E2, and E3, what you give it, that the part one, part that first time I know, like, okay, these are the three few resources. So for me, anything you can put it in the next one, I will be available for that. Believe me, for me, it's like just start learning the whole thing. I love to learn more and more. And the guys are there are amazing. They are all our ESG experts for me. Far, far more I had knowledge of ESG. So I'm just starter. So let's see. And I will be the part of the team. Don't worry about that.
Thanks a lot, Hassan.
Yeah, so I was requesting Munib to share something, what he has been up to and how he thinks things are happening and what he can contribute in the community as well, Munib, because you are on that business side of the spectrum.
Yes, thank you, Ahmad bhai. So, well, first of all, I would suggest the topics for our next meeting would be, I would say, Amar bhai, let's start with the basics. What's ESG? I know you pretty much covered a lot of it, but there are a lot of more details. You can go more granular and in more comprehensive way. Secondly, Europe is one of the leading regions in the world in this ESG sector, and I see a lot of growth around the world because a lot of people will try try to copy what Europe is doing, because they would have a benchmark to compare and to make notes and to make laws on, right? So France is one of the leading within Europe. France is leading in this region within Europe. So I would say let's see what France is doing and try to learn, and how about we make sessions based on what they are doing. Secondly, about me, yeah, I have ESG consultants in Europe. Just today, I had a meeting with one of the biggest consultancy of ESG in Greece. So I have in-house consultant in Italy. One is in New York, and I have in Canada as well. So I'm trying to expand throughout the world, and I have collaborations with companies in Singapore, in different parts of the world, US, India, Pakistan. So what I'm doing is basically trying to help people learn more about ESG. Not only that, we are also doing some social activities. Just 3 days ago, we took the initiative of planting 500 trees in Tanzania, and I'm gonna increase this 500 to 1,000 by two months. So yeah, that's my social initiative of giving back to the society in general. Well, this not only will absorb about 300 tons of carbon emissions, but also creating jobs for about 150 man hours on daily basis. So that's me giving back to the society. And I would love if anybody wants to collaborate with me. Let's build something or share ideas and see how we can help sit together, brainstorm, jot down some ideas, see what we can come up with. Thank you.
That's the power of
Yeah,
community,
yeah.
by the way. That's the power of
Yeah,
community.
yeah. That's what I
Ideas
was
come
gonna say.
together, people come together. Yes, Umar, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the idea, to basically people who are, I'm gonna approach this subject from the regulations point of view, trying to explain the regulations, trying to make it simple. But then you folks are on the ground doing it for multiple businesses. If you are running a consultancy, right? You are basically providing the service across the multiple business. So then sharing that, becoming a hive mind where we share that knowledge, where we bring together the practical barriers that each one of you have surmounted, that would make this community a very powerful one. And then we can definitely benefit from each other. And that is going to take off big time, I would say.
Yeah. So do we have anyone who wants to contribute, share something, give us some more thoughts in the group? Yes, Amar, please.
I just have a question. So Amar bhai, you mentioned about the European regulations, and Europe being the first one coming up with regulations. Are there other countries, or shall I say region, like for example North America or anybody else? Are they also looking at their own regulations, or everybody is just at the moment following the European one and then see what happens?
No, so there are two set of regulations. So the Europeans one are called ESRS, which are, they have made it mandatory for 3 sets of companies to do it from the start of 2024, which I just explained. Large listed entities, and there is a definition of large listed entities, and then large banks, large insurance companies. For the rest, rest of the world, they are looking at a different set of regulations by a different organization called ISSB. And IFRS, being a global organization, cannot make it mandatory. They cannot come up with a stick and ask that other jurisdictions that, okay, now we have got the standards out, you follow it. No. So they provide the standards, and each jurisdiction, each nation basically then sees, just like you explained for Pakistan, they may have a roadmap of 2025 or 2026 to it for adoption of this. Yeah. So each one basically charts their own roadmap. I can tell you that right now there are 10 to 11 big, you can say, economies of the world, including the G20 economies, like even Canada, Australia, Brazil, countries like that, who are basically close to announcing the adoption of IFRS, not the European. So ESRS is for European mandatory. IFRS is not mandatory. It's going to be made mandatory by each country itself. And yeah, so IFRS is also just two standards right now. I think they are very young in terms of their standard setting exercise, and I think they are going to increase their. And those are the updates that I'm going to provide you in each monthly. That what is IFRS looking at, what is going to come their way, and regarding your question, last comment on the Americans basically started a lot earlier, almost around the Europeans, with something called TCFD. I told you at the start of this presentation that there are multiple reporting frameworks, and we are going to make it simpler by sticking to the two global ones. IFRS picked up TCFD and built on top of that. So if you are applying the IFRS S1 and S2, you are complying with the American TCFD. So IFRS has made it clear that if you don't need to then comply, do a separate set of compliance for American TCFD. They have, you can say, a kind of absorbed, it still exists as a separate organization, but they have absorbed TCFD. And that's a big thing, because in the world of accounting, we keep on saying that international accounting standards are different, and the Americans, have their own word on the accounting, but on the climate change and the sustainability standards, they're the one and the same.
Okay, so yes, anybody else wants to say something, contribute? Yes, Suzessa, go ahead.
So I wanted to ask Amar regarding the ESG. You mentioned that there are two reporting accounting standards that are being followed right now.
Yeah.
I'm currently working with a client in Riyadh, basically. So they are following global reporting standards. That is, I think, the third one. Would you please differentiate between these three so that our audience would be more able to understand this?
So GRI is, so you're talking about the Global Reporting Initiative, right?
Yes.
GRI is a third set of regulations, different from IFRS and ESRS. And GRI is basically also basically talks extensively about the ESG part of that. They have their own set of environmental regulations, and they came into play actually a lot earlier than even the Europeans and the international ones, right? So DRI exists for quite some time. And once again, there are tools which would basically tell you if you're complying with the international financial reporting standards, to what extent are you covering the GRIs as well, right? So there are tools which will tell you that, and we can basically look up those tools and share with you, and then you can see, okay, which additional requirements of the GRI need to be complied with if you're already doing the IFRS. But yes, that is a third set of regulations in existence even before the IFRS, the ISSB, and the ESRS, the European ones.
Thank you, Umar. I also had an idea if we are building up this community. So as a data analyst coming from a very different background than chartered accountants and the people over here are, I want to bring a new perspective that how the data perspective, that how the tools are lining up, how the big data technologies are lining up, how the AI and machine learning technologies are lining up in this ESG domain. So I would love to have a talk and contribute on that end as well, because I myself working as AI and data guy, but specifically in ESG domain. So I would love to talk on that end as well.
That is definitely most welcome, Uzair. So what we'll do is in our follow-up sessions, we will, I think, Hamad, let's carve out a space, because technology is a very important component of any field walk of life. And just to let you know, Uzair, you're talking to a fellow technologist. So I have left the financial and reporting, even though I come from a chartered accountancy background. Right now, I'm doing the technology. I'm into the low code and no-code technology. So you're talking to one of your fellow technologists as well. That's a thing about me. I kind of can wear different hats at different times, depending on the audience I'm speaking to. But definitely we'll carve out some time in the next session, and then you can definitely, highlight and project your capability as well in that community.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in today's session. It's heartwarming to see initially 12 people joining in. Some had to drop off, but let's plan another session in April, and I'm going to create. Amar is going to create that little community that we just spoke about, and we would invite you to be part of the community. Minimal, sharing. It's not a WhatsApp community where people share everything. You will be very targeted, and that's a place where you can actually start helping us grow the community. So you can also, when we do the next session, you'll be able to recommend who we should invite, and you can also share a link to the people that you think should be joining the session. So with that, Amar, thank you for your time, everyone. I know everyone is in different time zones, and let's stay connected and let's keep this momentum going towards achieving our ESG goals, hopefully, as time comes, because it's going to be a knowledge-based collaboration that we are looking at. Amar, last concluding remarks from you, please.
Yeah, I just want to just leave all of you with this thought process that, especially to my fellow chartered accountants, and I know Hassan and Fahad are here as well as other participants, is that this is something very different. We have worked with a lot of financial, non-financial information. This is the first very comprehensive, quantifiable, non-financial information for which we need to be a little bit more proactive than other adoptions that we did, especially in terms of Saudi Arabia. We had the IFRS reporting standards adopted, we have the VAT adopted, but this is going to be something entirely different. So a little bit of proactive, and that's the entire purpose of it. But before these regulations hit our goals, we need to be ready, at least from the knowledge point of view and the practicality point of view, of how to start about this journey. And I'm going to share, because we at my own group in Saudi Arabia are starting with the ESG as a proper strategic initiative. I'm going to share that as well as we go along in the subsequent sessions.
So thank you very much for again joining in, and please keep augmenting, keep bringing in more audience, and let's keep growing this little community that we have started today. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Thanks, Ahmad. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Waalaikum salam.
Salam alaikum.
Waalaikum salam.